So the good news is that a lot of work did happen last week. It was clear that parties came to COP24 really ready to get down to business. But as you said, a lot of work remains. And that's not unexpected. We knew that there was a lot to be done at this COP and that we would probably need some more time in the second week to get those technical pieces in place. So the challenges this week are going to be bridging the technical work into the political work that ministers have arrived this week in Katowice to take care of. So having the heads of delegation do the translation between the technical and the political will be really important. And of course, the major pieces that we're working on here in Poland are the finalization of that Paris Agreement operating manual, that thing that's going to make the Paris Agreement work, and making sure that we have a very strong call coming out of COP24 for countries to level up the ambition of their climate action. And that is absolutely necessary given the special report on 1.5 degrees that we saw this year from the IPCC and the incredible devastation and loss of life that people have been experiencing around the world from the increasing impacts of climate change. So the role that civil society plays in that is one of, on the technical side, in the landing of elements of the Paris Agreement rulebook, feeding back to parties our advice on the kind of bridging text that we see available on some of the more sticky issues, particularly in regards to finance. So we know there are a lot of challenging conversations happening around the predictability of future finance, around the ways in which parties account for the finance delivered and the finance needed. "34 of my member organizations, of Climate Action Network Canada member organizations, last week signed on to a letter outlining how we saw Canada could legislate a body into existence that helps us set up indicators for climate progress over time, that has a responsibility to report to the federal government, to provincial and territorial governments on progress toward our climate goals, is able to break down our longer term climate goals into smaller measurable units of time. So carbon budgets or climate targets at the 5-year mark that help us understand that longer 2030 and 2050 trajectory a little bit better. So the first one is this concept of just transition. And this, has been a big theme here at COP24. I'm sure you've spoken with many folks about it already. And this is a way in which we work very closely with our members. We have labor unions in the membership of Climate Action Network Canada. And last year we worked together to get Canada to announce a federal just transition task force. It's not just about workers, it's also about communities. So it's about thinking through how climate action can actually make sure the lives of everyday people are actually being improved, including Indigenous peoples and those on the front lines of climate change. And that gets me to the final point, which is actually addressing our reliance on fossil fuels. So kicking our fossil fuel habit, that's not something that gets talked about very often in this space, but we know that fossil fuels are the problem. And so figuring out how we're going to get away from fossil fuel dependence in Canada and globally will be really critical to that level of ambition that the world needs.